Hi, church family. Pastor Ryan here. We have been celebrating Holy Week all week, and each day we've been celebrating by posting a video that has a little devotional content, but also just reflecting on what Jesus was going through over 2,000 years ago on each day during the final days before his death. And so today we're going to think back and reflect on what Jesus was doing and what he was going through on Thursday of Passion Week. Jesus sent Peter and John ahead to the upper room in Jerusalem to make preparations for the Passover feast. And the Passover feast is a celebration that's still celebrated today by many Jewish communities. It goes back all the way to the book of Exodus when there was the final plague of Egypt and God rescued his people if they put the sacrificed lamb's blood over their doorpost, and the Spirit would pass over their homes, and God rescued his people. And so this was a celebration that Jesus and his disciples celebrated every year, and Jesus wanted to spend Thursday night having one final supper, one last feast with his closest disciples. Now that evening, after sunset, Jesus washed the feet of his disciples as they prepared to share in this meal. And when he did that, it was a humble service. It was a humble act that Jesus did. And he gave them a commandment when he did it to love one another as he loved them. And Jesus demonstrated that perfectly when he was washing their feet. They did not deserve the King, the Messiah, to wash their feet, but he washed their feet because he loved them. And he wanted them to do the same towards others. And then Jesus shared the Passover feast with the disciples. He was about to fulfill the true meaning of Passover by giving his body to be broken and his blood to be shed as a sacrifice, a final sacrifice for all mankind, freeing us from our sin and freeing us from death. So let's read real quick the account that Matthew had. In Matthew 26, verses 26, it says, "As they were eating, Jesus took bread, blessed it, and broke it. He gave it to the disciples and said, 'Take, eat, this is my body.' Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them and said, 'Drink from it, all of you. For this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. But I tell you, I will not drink from this fruit of the vine from now on until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom.' After singing a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. And then Jesus said to them, 'Tonight all of you will fall away because of me. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you to Galilee.' Now Peter told him, 'Even if everyone falls away because of you, I will never fall away.' 'Truly I tell you,' Jesus said to him, 'tonight, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Even if I have to die with you,' Peter told him, 'I will never deny you.' And all the disciples said the same thing. Of course, we know in the story that Peter does deny him 3 times, just as predicted. And Judas betrays him, just as Jesus predicted. The beauty of this is that even though the disciples and even though Peter and Judas didn't deserve it, Jesus loved them. He died for them. And that's a good reminder for us too, that we don't deserve God's grace. We don't deserve the love that Jesus has for each and every one of us. We don't deserve his sacrifice. But everything that Jesus did in his ministry on earth, everything that he did and said was to glorify God, but also to show love, mercy, grace. I think on that commandment that Jesus gave his disciples on this day. And he told them, "A new commandment I give to you, to love one another as I have loved you." So I think that's a good question that we need to ask ourselves. Are we truly loving others the way Jesus loves us? Are we loving others? Are we seeing people the way that Jesus sees them? And so I want to challenge you today to think about those around you that may need to see Jesus' love through you, even though they don't deserve it, because we don't deserve it. But Jesus commanded his disciples, and he commands us to love others as he loves them. And so there's one way in particular that I can think of that we can all share Christ's love is to invite people, and specifically our one. I know many of you have that one person that's on your mind. Who's your one that may not know Christ, that may not have a relationship with Jesus? And this is a perfect time to share the love of Jesus and the gospel by inviting them to join us for our online Easter Sunday worship. And that happens this Sunday at 8 a.m. and 10:45. And just invite them. Give them a phone call, send them a text or a Facebook message, and invite them to watch the service and participate in the service with us. They'll hear the gospel. They'll hear how Jesus loves them and how he died for them. And I encourage you to follow up with that one person and see if they have questions. See if you guys can have a spiritual conversation together. But let us remember from Jesus' words what he did when he had that Last Supper. He demonstrated something for us to remember, is that he loved all of us so much that he sacrificed himself for us. So let's have that same type of love for one another. I hope you're having a wonderful week, and I can't wait to worship with you this Sunday.